Texting 1-2-3-4-8-6-7-5-0-9 or 119 Mayday. Hey, it is a Freeform Friday here in a frosty sack. As you can tell, I'm wearing some of the hefty stuff tonight. It is becoming the witching hour here as we are 11 days from my favorite Halloween. But we are here in the mid-sack. I am flying solo tonight. The Redoubtable One is out western part of the state, raising holy hell with his friends. Hopefully he's having a great time. Segment 1 tonight here on IDD, for those of you in the know, I don't disagree. The non-competitive, sometimes competitive, mostly bitter, and always questionable sports show. Featuring the New York and Boston fan bases. I am highly questionable, Audrey Migliaccio, flying solo this evening. Segment 1, college football preview. We are at week 8 here in late October. This is when it gets good. As I said, the whole month of October, you start to see a lot of these heavyweights squaring off, and we have no exception this weekend in terms of big Dukeroos. We are going to start with number 17 Tennessee, going down to Tuscaloosa to face the Crimson Tide, number 11 Crimson Tide, one loss. When you look at this game, and again, I love the SEC. To me, the SEC is still, and the Pac-10 has had a great year this year. The ACC has had a bounce back year. Both those conferences look a lot better. It's frustrating because the Pac-10 is no more this year, and right now that's the best they've looked probably in 20 years. Okay, in terms of overall depth and talent and teams, but now they're going to all be split into 1,000 pieces. Big 12, SACC. 3 of them are going to the SEC, and a few are going to the SEC as well. It's becoming weird, and these kids, the traveling is going to be outrageous. But next year will be the 12-team playoff. That's going to be amazing. So people are going to forget about that real quick when they start looking at these possible playoff scenarios. But in the meantime, that's next year. For now, we are starting down in Tuscaloosa. When you look at this game, Alabama, since that loss to Texas where they were outplayed, they were outplayed and they were outplayed in their backyard, which does not happen often, okay? In fact, I think, because Texas is technically not in the SEC yet, but they will be next year, that counts as an out-of-conference loss for Alabama. They had not lost an out-of-conference game, I believe, in 7 or 8 years. I think it was 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer. So it's hard to go down there if you're in the conference and win. Okay, if you're out of the conference, it's even more difficult. So but since that loss to Texas, they have reeled off 5 straight, and they now Mississippi State was impressive. They kind of blew them out 40-17 at A&M. Again, this is on the road in the SEC is even tougher. And they kind of messed around with Arkansas last week and squeaked by 24-21. Arkansas is one of the few not good teams in that conference. But now here comes Tennessee, a 5-1 program. This is a CBS game at 3:30. And Tennessee, just so you know, they're 2-1 in the conference. Their only loss was at Florida. They've had some impressive wins. They beat Carolina. They've won 3 in a row themselves. And then they went to, they beat South Carolina. They also beat A&M. So they are 5-1 quietly. Again, they're 22nd. They've got Alabama. Then they've got to play. They've got to play Missouri, who's suddenly ranked 20th, and they've got Georgia later on in the year. So their fate is yet to be determined. But this is a big one for them tomorrow if they can get it down in Tuscaloosa. Currently, Tennessee is tied for second in the East standings of the SEC. In the West, Alabama is in front. They are undefeated in the conference. LSU is 4-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall behind them. So as far as this game goes tomorrow, look, Alabama. Their whole thing was their quarterback. Kid's a freshman, and he has come on lately. He struggled earlier in the year. Jalen Monroe is the guy I'm talking about. But now he is up to over 60% completion percentage. He's got 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has been sacked 26 times. But again, he has improved over the course of the year. So to the point where he's been steady. Their big thing, obviously, is their defense and their rushing attack. They are, while they're only averaging just under 4 yards a carry, again, they are at over 1,000 yards already rushing as a team. And they've got a couple of bruisers there, McClellan and Williams, running backs. McClellan 4.8 yards a carry, Williams 5.2 yards a carry. So those guys are no joke, not to be taken lightly. I don't know that Tennessee has the firepower to go into Tuscaloosa and win this game, quite honestly. Alabama is kind of hanging around. And when I say they're hanging around, they know that if they can just get to because again, after this, they still got number 19 LSU, then they got Auburn in the Iron Bowl. They have the ability to run the table and get into that SEC championship game where they face Georgia. That's all they want to do. They get there and they got a shot at the playoff and a national championship. So they just got to win out. And there's no team left on their schedule that I believe has more talent than them. LSU offensively, maybe. But Tennessee, I don't know if they have enough firepower. I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout. I think this is going to be a dawning. Tennessee is a good team. Their defense is pretty impressive. And they also boast, I might add, they have a I'm trying to remember his name, but the quarterback, the quarterback Milton has been pretty steady also, but his completion percentage is down a bit. Their biggest thing is their rushing attack. Jalen Wright's 571. This dude's averaging 7.1 yards a carry, so he's a workhorse. He's only been in the end zone once, though. But they, as a team, they're rushing for over 13, almost 14 yards already. That's their strength. And almost 6 yards a carry on average. So that's their strength. So their strength against Alabama's front seven, rather. That's where the game's going to be decided probably. And, of course, always with college football in particular, even more so, turnovers are everything. So Alabama has to take care of the ball. They have to run the ball and keep them honest, keep their pass rush off the quarterback, the kid there. And if they do that, Alabama should be successful. I've got them in this game. I've got them winning at 27-23. And I think it's going to be every bit that close, barring, of course, turnovers. If Alabama can force a couple turnovers, maybe they can run away and hot. But that aside, it's going to be pretty close all the way down. Alabama should pull away in the fourth quarter and win this game, or at least get a late score late. With that said, the next game we're going to go to, the second one, we're saving the big one for last if you haven't figured out what that one is. But the second one, this one, I am very excited to see this game. We've got number 16 Duke, who damn near beat Notre Dame. If you're still doubting Notre Dame, look what they did to USC last Saturday night. Because they didn't beat them, they whooped them. Okay, and USC came in and defeated one of the best offenses in the country. And Notre Dame held that Heisman Trophy winning quarterback to they picked him off 3 times. And they sacked him 4 or 5 times, and they shut that offense down to the tune of 20 points. It was 48-20. So Notre Dame is no joke. Duke lost to Notre Dame in the last minute. Okay, otherwise they'd still be undefeated. So they are going to Florida State rather, to Tallahassee, to where is that game? I have it here somewhere. To take on the Seminoles, who are ranked 4th, undefeated. Florida, since that win, that opening game weekend statement when they blasted LSU on national television, they barely escaped BC. They did go to Clemson and win, tough thing to do. Then they blew up Virginia Tech and Syracuse. So they've been rolling. But now here comes their schedule. They've got Duke 16, Pitt, who upset. Who was it? Who did Pitt upset? I forget. Where are they? They're 2-4 in the conference. They beat somebody who was. Pitt beat Louisville. So they've got Pitt. They did them, and then they play Miami, which should be a big game, and then they go to Florida, the Gators. So look, if they get by Duke, Miami at home and at Florida, probably their 2 biggest contests left. But don't sleep on Pitt, because that's on the road, and that's exactly what Louisville did. They slept on them and they got beat because of it. So. But Florida State, they, offensively speaking, they've got a quarterback there, Jordan Travis. He is a Heisman candidate. He has been all that in a bag of potato chips to the tune of 1,500 yards passing. He's got 13 touchdowns, only 1 interception this year. And he's also, well, he's not really a dual threat. He does run, but only when he has to. He does have 4 rushing TDs, but just over 100 yards rushing. But he's got the big arm, and he's also got a receiver here. This kid, I don't know if you've seen this kid. Remember this name, Keon Coleman. He is currently, on pace for over 1,000 yards. On pace for, he's averaging over 14 a catch. He's got 7 touchdowns. He is a transfer. Excuse me. He is a transfer. And since then, he's become Florida State's #1 guy. And him and the other dude, Johnny Wilson, who's been solid, almost 400 yards receiving and 17 yards a catch. Those two have been a dual threat that has been very tough for people to contend with. So far, no one has solved the riddle. So Duke, who has a pretty stout defense, is going to get tested tomorrow in a big way. This game being in Tallahassee, Florida State hasn't been this close to a championship in a very long time, and I think they can smell it. And they're not going to take Duke lightly because they saw what happened against Notre Dame. And they saw what Notre Dame did to USC. Duke damn near beat Notre Dame. So they are not taking this team lightly. Their 16th ranking is no fluke, Tom. And I expect that to be a game for at least a half. Second half, though, for that Florida State offense, I think is going to be too much. Because this kid, and by the way, he's got a tight end too, this Jaheim Bell, who averages 17 yards a catch as well. He's another guy you're going to have to contend with. So I just think they have too many weapons in the passing game. They are averaging 5.5 yards a carry running the ball. So Florida State's no slouch there either. So they have a balanced offense, and usually balance equates to success. And again, this kid doesn't turn the ball over. Duke's best chance for an upset is they got to get to this kid and they got to force a couple turnovers. They got to get 2 more possessions in this game. If they can do that, they have a shot. If Florida State plays a clean game, I think they win by 2 touchdowns. So I'll give them 34-20 if there's no turnovers. This is Duke's one chance. If Duke can turn the ball over and take care of the ball, they got a shot. But right now I got Florida State 34-20 in that one. That brings us to the one that, people have been waiting a long time for this, and I know because there's 2 of them here in the SAC. My buddies, and I call it North SAC versus South SAC. We got Brian Kovach up in the north against Mr. Creekmore down in the South SAC. This is the game of the weekend, potentially the game of the year, and you've got. I'm talking about Penn State, ranked, I believe, number 6. I believe they are number 6, and they are traveling to Columbus, Ohio, to face the number 3 ranked Buckeyes. This is at noon on Fox, so the whole nation's going to be able to see it. A lot of hype around this game because everyone is wondering, is Penn State for real? Ohio State's been there. Ohio State could have won the national championship last year. A lot of people will tell you that, I myself included, that they outplayed Georgia. And lost their best receiver and damn near beat him anyway. And if that field goal kicker didn't shank that kick, they would have beaten them. So Ohio State's ranking, and they returned Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the best receiver in the country, by the way. They're no fluke. They're there. And they went into Notre Dame in South Bend and beat the Irish, who I believe maybe have the best defense in America. I think it's them and maybe Georgia. But Notre Dame is top 3-4 defense in this country. And listen, they held Ohio State down. That was a close game. It was 17-14. So I really expect this game. And again, Penn State's been cruising. They have been cruising. Ohio State's they've gotten better as the year has gone on. They started off kind of slow. Then they whacked Western Kentucky. Then they go into Notre Dame, and they beat Maryland pretty convincingly. It was a good team. Then they drubbed Purdue 41-7. So they have gotten steadily better each week. And when I say to you that their arsenal is loaded, they being Ohio State, the freshman McCord is completing 64% of his passes. He has been very efficient too. 11 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. And then, of course, Ohio State, again, they've got balance. They're averaging over 4 yards a carry running the ball. They've got a dual threat at running back, Henderson and Trainum. And then, of course, there's Harrison, who's on pace for 1,200 yards. He's averaging almost 20 yards a catch, Marvin Harrison Jr., and 5 TDs. And he's been double-teamed probably since the season started. He had a double team coming out of the locker room for a first practice in preseason. So he's doing all that, facing every team's – the game plan, I guess I would say, number 1, stop Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, and he's doing this. He's putting up over 600 yards, 19.5 yards a catch. But again, Ohio State, he is not alone. The tight end Stover's been very good, 15 yards a catch, almost 400 yards. And the other receiver, it's Egbuka. I think. I wish Creek was here. He's over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. So they don't have just one weapon. They got a few. But the big gun is obviously Harrison Jr. And Penn State's going to have to prove, because if you look at, here's the one problem with Penn State. And Brian, to his credit, has been saying this. Brian has been saying that, well, who have they really, and again, they have blown people out. They've been blowing people out. But when we look at them, they're ranked 7th. They have handled their business. They've faced one ranked team. That was Iowa, who was 24th time. They shut them out 31-0. They beat West Virginia by 3 touchdowns to start. They crushed Delaware 60-7. They go to Illinois, win 30-13. They've been convincing. Northwestern, same thing. On the road, 41-13. Northwestern is 3-3. They're not a bad team in the Big 12. Big 10, rather. They still call them the Big 10. And then they took out UMass 63-0. So their offense has been high octane. They've got a couple of 60 burgers on people. Now, again, UMass isn't very good, and for that matter, neither is Delaware. But I would say this. Penn State did what they were supposed to do. They didn't play down to their competition, which to me bodes well for them, because they don't do that. When teams do that, you tend to worry about them, because that means they look past people. Penn State hasn't looked past anybody. They have literally kept their eye on the prize right in front of them, and they have handled their business in convincing fashion, which is why I believe this could potentially be the game of the year. And again, Penn State, USC was the offense, but I'll tell you right now, Penn State, across the board, their quarterback, Aller, this dude, 65% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions. Okay, and they've got a rushing attack like you read about. They're averaging over 4.5 yards a carry. They've got 3 guys that can carry the mail. All of them, Allen, Singleton, and Prebula rather. Allen 4.8 yards a carry. Singleton 4.1 a carry. Prebula, who is the quarterback, by the way, average 6.6 yards a carry. And then in terms of the passing game, their best threat is Lambert Smith. I'm sure Brian knows who he is. He's over 400 yards, averaging 13 yards a catch. They've got a solid tight end, and they got another receiver, Harris Wallace III, who's at least been getting most of the targets. So, look, Penn State is formidable in every way, shape, and form. Their defense has been formidable. Again, other than Iowa, Iowa's ranked. That counts. But Ohio State going into South Bend and beating maybe the best Notre Dame team I've seen in 25 years says a lot. So, to me, this is a one-score game. This comes down into the fourth quarter. I am going to call the upset. I think Penn State finally gets it done. They've been knocking at the door for years. Creekmore's going to hate me for this. And I think they're both going to put up some points. I've got Penn State winning this one 34-31. This is the first real upset I think I've picked this year. So far on my picks, I'm undefeated. I have not got one wrong yet, so here we go. And this is in the horseshoe, by the way. But I think this Penn State team is ready. And I say that for 2 reasons. 1, they take care of the ball. And 2, they don't look past anybody. And they've kept their head down. Ohio State is traditionally getting all the hype in that conference. And Michigan, of course, they'll see, I believe they see Michigan later on in the year. I know Ohio State does. Yeah, they do. They host Michigan on November 11th. So this is the first of 2 big ones for them. I think Penn State gets it done. And again, now, if Ohio State is able to turn them over, because here's the thing. Ohio State should have lost to Notre Dame. And I think Creekmore knows it. Because if Notre Dame, the last 2 plays of the game, had 10 men on the field, which means they panicked, they pooped themselves, their coach wasn't ready for the moment. I don't think Penn State's going to have that problem. Penn State has seen Ohio State before. They are not rattled. They've been in the horseshoe before. The elements and the surroundings are not going to rattle this team. And I say that, look, they've got, of course, every time I want to say something, when I look at this roster, I mean, their quarterback, he's a sophomore, and he's 6'5". This kid quietly is turning himself into a pro prospect. He's got the big arm. They've got. I don't want to say they're. I don't want to say that they're the most experienced team in the conference, but they're not wet behind the ears either. They're not green. Okay, so I like Penn State in this one to pull the upset. It's not. I don't know that it's a big upset though. I believe they were. I think Ohio State's a 3-point favorite, and that's the gentleman's. You're at home, you get the 3, you get the field goal. So I don't know that it's that big of a of a spread. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But Marvin Harrison Jr. To me is the linchpin for Ohio State. I just think that Penn State is due. They're due. They've got experience. They've kept their head down. They're balanced. They take care of the football. They can run it. They can throw it. And nobody's really slowed them down at all. So Ohio State's defense is formidable. They're going to give Penn State clearly their toughest test. But I think Penn State does win this one again, 34-31. So that's going to do it for segment 1. We'll come back segment 2. We're going to talk Boston Bruins. The big bad bees are back, minus a legend. We'll discuss that in segment 2. Bruins are off to a great start. They call him Linus, I call him Linus Ullman. The goaltender is back. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder given the way he choked in last year's playoff. At least that's the way he's played so far. But we'll get into that in segment 2. It is a Freestyle Friday here in the SAC. I am the highly questionable Roger Miliaccio. I will see you in segment 2. Hockey talk, boys and girls. Who would have thunk it? Of course, Tom's not here. But get yourself a cold one. By the way, the good doctor, I'm not alone. I'm never alone. The good doctor's with me tonight. And don't think he's going to be by himself either. So we will see you on the other side, segment 2. Boston Bruins hockey coming right up.